Launched in 2006, the PlayStation 3 had a slow start, struggling to do well with the massive $500 price tag up against lower priced competitors like the Xbox 360 and the Nintendo Wii, but it managed to pick up the pace immensely over time and was able to cement itself in gaming history. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're taking a look at the PS3 12 years after its release. How does it hold up in 2018? There are three main models of the PS3, the original, the Slim, and the Super Slim. Most agree the best model is the Slim, which came out in 2009. I personally have the older one, as you can see here, and it's fair to say the console is very big and definitely looks better when it's smaller. However, as far as the design goes, I actually really like the look of this console with the glossy black housing and chrome accents that really just give off a futuristic vibe without actually being futuristic. I don't know what I'm saying, I just like the look of it. Also, the Spider-Man font on the top really just cements this for me. I just like it, but it all comes down to personal preference. There isn't really much benefit to using the older models. If you can find an original PS3, which this is not, you can get a couple extra USB ports and the ability to play PS2 games. Otherwise, you're just getting a bigger system that has a good chance of overheating. Definitely don't want to get the dreaded yellow light of death. The Slim has more of a matte finish and is just more modern looking overall, and again is easily the best choice if you're looking to pick a PS3 up, especially because it is way more reliable than the older model. The Super Slim, on the other hand, just feels cheap with its crappy plastic and sliding disc door, so I would just avoid that one altogether. Back in the day, the older design of the PS3 really hindered sales, with you not getting a whole lot for your $500. At launch, you would only get a 20GB hard drive for $500, although you could pay $600 and get a 60GB. Interestingly, even though $500 was a lot of money, Sony was still losing money on each sale due to the ridiculous manufacturing costs. Luckily, this changed with the introduction of the Slim, but in 2006, it just wasn't worth it to buy a PS3. Although what you were getting back in the day when buying a PS3 was a Blu-ray player. Sony found massive success in making the PS2 a DVD player in a time where most people didn't even have a DVD player yet, which contributed greatly into making it one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Sony wanted to repeat this strategy with Blu-ray, and while this was a good decision in the long run, in 2006 people didn't really care. After all, DVDs were still relatively new, who needed even better technology. The need for Blu-ray picked up greatly in time, and of course now is the industry standard when it comes to physical copies of movies. Something that's kind of cool is that the PS3 actually did a lot of things right when it came to future-proofing. It had Wi-Fi out of the box, unlike the 360 at the time, as well as the first HDMI port on a console. And again, it chose to utilize Blu-ray, which was a great decision. Turning on the console, we find the classic startup screen and a beautiful XMB interface. This has easily got to be my favorite UI on any console, and I wish the PS4 was a bit more similar to it. It's fast, fluid, easy to use, and is what every game console should aim to be, at least in my opinion. Nonetheless, it holds up amazingly well in 2018, and if I was told this was released this year, I don't think I'd doubt it for a second. It looks so good, and it makes everything so easy to do. When it comes to raw power, the PS3 was a beast, but kind of a misunderstood one. Most 360 games looked better at the time, but not because of better hardware. The PS3 was just simply difficult to develop for. Over time, you can see graphics gradually surpass that of the 360s with games like Last of Us, but it's fair to say the complex hardware throttled the PS3 more than benefiting it, and this was ratified with the PS4 having a more standard development process. But all this doesn't really matter. What matters are the games. Games. Easily the most important aspect of the PS3, and the one most of you probably care about. The PlayStation 3 has a good mix of exclusives like Uncharted and The Last of Us, the latter of which having easily the best graphics of any last generation console. While there was a severe lack of games at the beginning of the PS3's lifecycle, this was soon made up for with stellar titles like the aforementioned games, as well as Journey, God of War, Little Big Planet, Infamous, Heavy Rain, and Killzone 2. Not to mention some more standout games that played on both the PS3 and 360, like Mass Effect, GTA 4, many of the Call of Duties, Skyrim, BioShock, and of course the critically acclaimed and award-winning Sonic the Hedgehog from 2006, personal favorite of mine. The catalog for the last generation of games is ginormous, and what's crazy is that all these games can be bought for super cheap, often around $5 a piece at places like GameStop. If you don't care so much about graphics as you do about good gameplay, a PS3 might be worth picking up solely to play some of these classics for cheap. And how do the games actually play? While it varies, most play pretty fluidly at 30 frames per second, although you will see some frame drops in certain titles as you would kind of expect. Again, most games actually perform better on the 360, but if you're a fan of Sony exclusives, the PS3 is a no-brainer. Actually playing the games is also really enjoyable thanks to the comfortable and unassuming DualShock 3 controller. While I think the 360 controller wins out, that really comes down to personal opinion, and in all fairness, at least this controller doesn't require double A's, but can be charged by the console. It's much easier and a lot better for your wallet too. I remember struggling as a kid to always try to find batteries for my 360 controller, and if I couldn't, then well, that was that. I have here a pretty crappy red DualShock controller that seems to have some glitter or something stuck on it for some reason. This wasn't mine originally. I picked it up for $10 online, so no real complaints. Speaking of which, although I mentioned it briefly earlier, the price is a really good reason to consider going out and buying a PlayStation 3. You can find them for dirt cheap on eBay, often around $100. Plus, don't forget that once you get a console, you can get games for like $5 each. If you don't have a PS3 and feel like getting one just to try it out, I would totally recommend it unless you have a PS4. In that case, you may as well just look for HD remasters of games like Uncharted and Last of Us, because while the PS3 is cool, the PS4 is of course a lot better. Now, if there is a specific game you want to get that's only on the last generation of consoles, then maybe a PS3 isn't a bad option. Overall, using the PS3 in 2018 is kind of what you would expect. It's still a very fun experience, even if it feels a bit dated. It's a great console, despite its rough start, and I'm sure you would know that if you ever had one. And going off that, I actually never had one when I was younger. I had an Xbox 360. Originally I had a PS2, and then I got a 360 in 2009, and while I loved the 360, I did kind of feel left out when it came to a couple Sony titles that I really want to play. So I picked this one up last year for I think $60. It was a pretty good deal, and honestly I've really enjoyed it. Gran Turismo, for example, is a great game that I think I forgot to mention earlier. Gran Turismo have always been my favorite racing games, so it's nice to finally be able to play them even if it's all these years later. But what about you? Do you have any good memories of playing PlayStation 3 or 2 or even the Xbox 360? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can find me over on Twitter and Instagram, links down below. And with that all being said, I am Josh from 91 Deck, and I will see you all next time.